Good morning. Just by way of understanding who we have in the audience, as I understand, it's mostly a bunch of developers and brand people, and there's not that many OEMs, operators, etc. around. Can you just raise your hand if you work for or are part of a developer, or you're a developer? And are you a brand? And you operate a manufacturer? Cool. So it looks like it's about 70% are either on the brand side or the small business developer side. My name is Raam. I set up a company called TouchNote 3 years ago, and we've been working in mobile, having started off in the world of Symbian and then moved on to other OSs. And actually, we've found it really quite hard. Finding sense in all this world, there's lots of people who talk about it, there's lots of people who play in it pretty hard, but our hypothesis here is that it's a barely sensible world, and there's not actually many companies who are doing this that well by any reasonable terms of judgment. But the conclusion to start with is there are customers out there. This was one of my favorite photos I saw from April Fool's this year. TouchNote, we're all about sending photos as real postcards. So we take the photos that you have on your phone, and we help you via the application take that and turn it into this, which is then from us via the application. We will physically print it and post it. And so the logic here is you've got these wonderful photos that you're taking when you're out and about. You've got a connected camera on you the whole time. Well, what are you doing with them? Yeah, it's very well that you send them, a bunch of them to Facebook, that you send some of them to email. But actually, there's some of them that are worth a bit more than that. And that's where we step in, that you can send this to your mum and she'll be happy. You can send it to your boyfriend, and what will he do? He'll probably put it up on the wall. Or you can send it home and it will probably go on the fridge. It's that mentality that actually there are some things that you want to keep forever. Kodak said it really well when they talk about their Kodak moments, and there's lots of other people that are playing in this game. But the way that we look at it is actually when you keep something, it's very different. When you hold something, it's a really different world. And that it's the meaning that you get from that permanence is what it's all about. Actually putting it up on the fridge. I go home now and there's multiple photos of ones that I've sent to my parents, and they're only on the fridge because my mum and dad actually like to keep these photos. Whereas ones I've sent them on email, my dad's killed at least 2 computers in the last 4 years. And that's not an abnormal behavior. I send them to my grandmother, I send them to my best friends, and they just stay. There's something weird and moral about photos, which is if you've got a printed photo, you're not actually allowed to tear it up. It's really weird. The only ones you're allowed to tear up are the ones of ex-girlfriends. And then you start looking into the slightly aspirational. What do we do? What's our big pathos, as they talk about from a branding perspective? What's the big aspiration? And the aspiration that we run for in the whole of the company and what we talk about that wakes us up in the morning is that we build stuff that makes someone's day. And our first step on that is these photo postcards. And actually, when it comes to sharing photos, sharing those moments, it's horrendously cheesy, but incredibly powerful. So in building this up, we've learned a bunch of lessons. And so today, my logic here is, in talking about distribution and talking about money, I want to go through with you what I feel are, for us, the 5 biggest lessons that we've learned along the way in the world of mobile apps. And to come back to what I said in the beginning, I actually think that this world that we're living in, this little bubble that we sit in, which is mobile apps, is relatively broken at this point in time. My hypothesis to you would be that very, very few apps make money. I'm going to go further than that and say that I don't think anybody makes money in this world other than brands who've already got an app that lives outside mobile and games. And that's a pretty damning comment on the world that we live in, where we're sitting here saying, oh, wow, isn't it great? Let's do this. Let's go and spend X £100 to come to a conference like this. Isn't it the future? Yes. Right, so I've staked my career on the fact that I think it is. But at the same time, we're not making money out of this. So you've got eBay as a good example, right? So eBay this year, 2011, they've publicly talked about getting somewhere close to $2 billion. Right? And that's off a business that's currently, transactions are around about the $8 billion mark. So eBay's a serious business by any stretch. I'm not questioning that. What I am questioning is that the rest of us, who are quite frankly monkeying around trying to work out how to make money on this, we're not making revenue. And by any standards, when you look at normal businesses, when you look at what's happening in the world of retail, when you look at the world of, when you're looking at the world of online, that just doesn't really make sense. There are, obviously, a whole bunch of photo startups that are photo small businesses in the mobile world that are making significant noise in this area. And we'll hear from some of them over the course of the next few days. With all due respect to them, and I personally use them, I think they're awesome. However, on the other side, they still don't make money. They're getting excellent valuations for other people to make money off it, using their data, using their services, using whatever it is that they bring with their consumers. So they're a stepping stone. And my logic here would be, and this is what happened in the web, and we could bring a very strong parallel, then the way the web progressed from early sites through to what we have today, where people have learned how to make real money out of it. We've got cowboy affiliates everywhere. That's a good thing. And the day that we get to that in the world of mobile will be a good day, because actually it means that people are giving up sensible jobs in other areas of digital to go and make money for themselves. And we're not there yet. Number two, if you want to make money out of your app, downloads are not just very hard to achieve, but near impossible. The way that we've currently got this world of apps set up is that there is a highly, going back to my A-level economics, it's a highly monopsonistic scenario, i.e. there's a few players that sit there in the middle and are the supply bottlenecks for apps. And that's like saying that in the high street you've only got one shop to go to, and that shop is run by a rating system that is, it's sometimes opaque, sometimes just downright dark. And actually that doesn't make it easy. And if you're sitting there and you've got an audience who's been taught to understand, to believe, to see that the world of mobile, the world of digital, lots of awesome stuff is free, how on earth are the rest of us trying to make money out of this? Because they've been taught you can go and get all this awesome stuff for really not very much. And there's weird people who have different business models, and we'll hear from some of them today. But they've got a very different business models that means that people like us, and myself and definitely in that category, and I know that there's other businesses here that are thinking about it like that, that are actually trying to make money out of a mobile-only strategy and trying to get those downloads is just really difficult. That's point number two. Point number three, that even if you have a pretty sensible budget, developers and full-time developers are really expensive. So if you are a full-time developer here, I want you to close your ears. So I looked at Monster.com a few weeks ago, and the stats were a little bit scary. So the average mobile architect with 5 years of experience, according to Monster.com, so obviously that's the American guide for salaries. That's part of what they do in addition to job recruitment type stuff. They are suggesting that that person should be on $103,000 per year. You compare that to what a private banker should be earning, and they suggested a private banker with 5 years of experience should be on $105,000 per year. So essentially we're saying that bankers and mobile app developers should be basically paid the same. Which means that for the rest of us, unless we have a big brand, and Nike and all these sort of other wonderful people who make just spectacular apps, unless we're able to pay that sort of amount of money, we're not going to get these people. And I know that we, as a sensible small business who had funding, who had a high level of profile in the London developer scene, et cetera, we spent 12 months trying to find 2 developers to come on board full time, just because supply and demand is really not in our favor at the moment. Point number 4. Possibly slightly contentious. Apple is still the biggest player in time. I'll add a little bit more to that. To me, that's explicitly in the case of revenue. So the problem and the challenge and the wonderful thing about Apple is that they are always rich people. The people that buy iPhones are people that have already put their credit cards through the system, who understand paying for digital stuff, who are used to this and are willing to do it. So with all respect to Android, I spent 5 months on my most recent, I've just moved back to iPhone 2 months ago. In my most recent Android outing, I spent 5 months trying to work out how to actually get my credit card onto Android Marketplace. That's not right. So me, as someone who should really understand this stuff, that's not a great place to be, where sitting there trying to spend money and just can't. It doesn't make it easy for the rest of us, and in trying to generate money and trying to generate the value that you get from these customers, actually, Apple is still the biggest game in town. Point 5, and to me this is where this all comes together, that when you think about product, when you think about your acquisition, your partners that you can build into your product, into your experience, that is everything. And understanding how these players fit in the different elements of the value chain and the acquisition chain, this is where you can make a difference. So for us, I'll give you a very clear example for us, and this is how we fit in with OEMs, etc. So for us, we sat there and worked out, okay, distribution's hard. We want to have a service whereby we get revenue off each customer, and we're going to be mobile specific. What do? We went off and made these very clear, calculated choices that in this world, these phones are sitting there and are, what are they? They're connected cameras that have awesome cameras on them. And who can make money out of this? So what can we do to build stuff on there? So you've now got on these cameras, and you're hearing rumors of 15 megapixel and getting onto 20 megapixel cameras within the next few months. And they're connected via a 3G, 4G connection, which basically means it's pretty quick. And the problems that these OEMs and operators are facing is that they're sitting there saying, oh, there's this digital divide, there's all these people that don't understand what we're giving them, and yes, that 15 megapixels camera is great, but, well, you're sending it up to Facebook, why do I care? And why am I showing off with it? And why am I persuading you to spend another $50, another $100 on it? And when I think about my costs, when I think about my bill of materials, 10, 15% of my bill of materials is on camera-related stuff. Be it the most awesome lens through to whatever processing stuff I'm taking on board to take those photos and make them awesome. So we made a very, very calculated decision. We're going to work with you lot who are having those problems, understand what you're sitting there facing, and you're sitting there saying, I want to do more with this, et cetera, all the stuff that I'm going through. And I want to show this stuff to people that are not just on my phone. I do not, right, so this is what the OEMs are telling us, I do not want an only mobile experience. I want to be able to show what I want consumers and our users to show what we did on our mobile phones and show it further afield. And we believe that the way that we've pulled this all together has meant that understanding the issues around the camera, understanding the issues around the connectivity, and the fact that actually there's not many people in this space, the people that are trying to solve these problems. There's not many things, brands aside, that are able to solve the problem. I want to do something real world with my app. There's not many people doing that. So for us, that was clearly an opportunity. And then you throw into it a revenue share, albeit relatively small, given that our ticket item is, it's £1.50 for that. It's €1.50 for that to anywhere in the world. So it's a relatively low ticket item that we're dealing with anyway. So however we work with these operators and manufacturers, whether it be bounties, et cetera, or on a revenue share ongoing basis, actually there's money involved. And they won't pay lots of salaries, but it definitely sweetens the pie. So for us, the way that we approach this is these guys are fitting together in a way that actually there is room to be creative. Pulling this all together, and by way of conclusion, to me, I had the challenge a week ago. It says, yeah, but you just work for an app company. What do you know about telcos? What do you understand about OEMs? Really, why do you think that you're important? I thought it was a really interesting and fair challenge in that it's true. Apps make up what you would describe as the froth. It's the cappuccino a little bit on the top of the cup of coffee. It says, yes, but actually that's the point here. That when my wife goes into Starbucks, she sits there and thinks about the fact that Starbucks is this wonderful house of dark coffees from Seattle, and, oh, don't I appear to be like Frasier and drinking my little espresso. But actually, she goes in there and orders a brown milkshake that happens to be a bit cold. It's got, I don't know, peppermint and other weird things that I find strange. And that's the world that we sit in here with apps. So this is a quote from a guy called Jim Moorish at Analysis Mason. Operator build revenue for mobile content and apps will be, and this was for last year, will be above 3 billion euros. So a further 21 billion euros of revenue will follow subscribers on the churn, follow subscribers who churn on the basis of content. Globally, apps and content may influence in excess of 60 billion euros of spending. So let's be clear about all of what we're talking about here. Yes, we're talking about the froth. Yes, we're talking about the nice little apps. Isn't it nice that you play Angry Birds? Isn't it nice that you sit there and send a TouchNote postcard? Isn't it great that you check in, etc.? Yes, it is great, and that's a wonderful little habit you may have. And we all, as developers, as guys that are running developers and brands, etc., that's what we want you to do. But we're also influencing spending. The fact that the company that I work for, that the companies that some of you guys work for, are influencing people committing to a €500 purchase over 2 years, which is a significant portion of their disposable income. That's a really big deal. And to me, that's the reason that we should all be excited to be here today. Many thanks.
So I have a question for you. So you make no money. Is that what you're telling us?
I'm saying that it's very hard to make real revenue in this world. So we're ambitious. We want to rule the world. And on that basis, whatever we are doing that's south of Kodak is we haven't succeeded yet.
Okay. So how do you run your company right now? VC money?
We're privately funded. We've got a generous seed early stage backer and running it with a team of 15 people based in North London.
Okay. I'm going to open the question to the floor. If anyone has got any question, all you have to do is raise your hand. And there's a mic that should come next to you, or.
I don't think I need a microphone. That's okay.
I think at the other side it might.
Quick question then, did you set up or are you working on setting up infrastructure within each country with partners to distribute domestically within those different nations, or do you do it all from the UK?
So to give you the slightly practical elements of the business, we are Android, iPhone focused. We print and post from 3 different countries. We print out of London, we print out of New Jersey, and then we print out of Aachen in Germany. And for us, it's a question of at what point will the printing demand pick up so that it makes it worthwhile. And our bet for next countries to be posting from will be Brazil and somewhere Southeast Asia, based on the sort of volumes that we're seeing.
Any other questions?
Thanks. Hi, I'm Avi from a startup called Clicked. My question is about your development team. You said you've got a team of 15. I'd be curious to know what's the split between business development and developers. And you mentioned that you were really struggling to find talent. It'd be interesting to hear what your secrets are to having found that many people.
In terms of the split, there's 3 of us who are non-techie, as it were. On top of the 3, then you've got, and so one of that is coordinating from an execution perspective. I'm doing biz devy type stuff and PR and external facing activities. And then we've got someone who does all elements of operations, be it on the printing side through to finance, through to dealings with PayPal, etc. Because we have daily print runs going out, and hundreds and thousands of cards going out on a daily basis, there does need to be some management of that. After that, then it's a couple of product guys, and then it's exclusively developers, be they app, be they server-side, or be they QA. In terms of your next question as to how to attract, this has been a really difficult one for us. It's been really going out and being as front foot in terms of showing what you get in the benefits of being in a startup and being committed to that startup, and what it means to come to TouchNote. So on a very simple example, our Android developer at the moment, he's someone that I now regard as someone as a strong friend. I only met him maybe a year ago. And he knows that he can come to us. He's got some issues at home where his parents are ill, and he knows that he can juggle his time and his commitments with us. And this is something that we all talk about. That, guys, actually, yes, you have to work. That's life. But coming here means that you can get this where you get certain flexibility that you wouldn't necessarily get, particularly in a contract role. At the moment, the contract role is somewhat mercenary, and that suits some people, but it doesn't suit all lifestyles. This has been, in terms of how we found him, has been exclusively go out and go and meet people and go and meet some more people and go and meet people from them. And it really has been go and spend a lot of time drinking coffee with the right sorts of people. We've not had very much luck with recruitment agencies, being quite honest.
Any other questions?
Thanks. So you talked of partnering with the OEMs, but how Apple's king. Where are you getting most of your downloads? Is that still through iTunes? Or?
So we're preloaded on lots of Sony Ericssons. I think we're preloaded on either 5 or 6 of them at the moment, which means that integrated deeply into the ROM, it means that many of the operators can't even take it off. So for us, the OEMs has been a great distribution tool in terms of actually getting out there onto millions of phones. But then, from the other hand, the mentality of consumers who go off and find us themselves or have it pushed in front of them so that they feel that they find it themselves has been incredibly powerful. So being featured by Google, being featured by Apple, actually people finding themselves because they've received this and someone's told them, hey, isn't that nice? Go and, oh, there's a little call to action that's sufficiently subtle yet sufficiently noisy. It's, those are inevitably the strongest customers we get.
Any percentage that you can share, like how many people that actually have the app installed on their phone, for example, you mentioned Sony Ericsson, will end up being customers versus...
Sure. The conversion rates on preload versus voluntary download are very different. And that's, I think, to me, and the hypothesis we're running with internally is very much based on, in the olden days of closed walled gardens, blah, 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 and nice little Java phones, what you get is what you got and what you had on your phone. Whereas now people understand stores. People understand going off and downloading something new. And so that you're thrown something by a manufacturer and operator, it's less appealing now. So in general terms, and I don't have I'll be honest, I don't have the conversion numbers on me. I don't know, there's no offhand. But it's a highly different world when you're the customers that you can acquire when a manufacturer pre-installs it.
A question over there?
Hi, I'm Paulina from a game startup called Anensu. I was just wondering if there was any particular changes or triggers that increased your conversion, like your sales, whether that may be something you change in the feature set, or is it like driven seasonally? Do people do this more around, you know, holidays or Christmas? Or if you could just talk about anything that has, you know, made a like positive impact.
Yeah, sure. So for us, from a usage perspective, as you can probably guess, these postcards, people associate them with summer. And our challenge as a company is that we want to associate with this with any time you've either taken a good photo or actually you're thinking about someone. I've thought about my mum, I've thought about my sister, my girlfriend, my dad, my brother, my best friend, etc. So we're trying to change that behavior. Yet, quite honestly, we've got a long way to go with that. And so for us, summer is definitely a great time of year. Christmas as well, and particularly from a cultural perspective, I think it's Scandinavians and Americans, speaking in broad strokes, that are more than happy to send family postcards and family one-sheet cards as Christmas cards. It's a very American habit, and this is what the Taylor family have done, and you give your 5 lines of what you guys have been up to, and little Johnny's done this, etc., etc. So that's for us from a seasonal perspective. I think the biggest feature, the single feature that has increased our usage, and this is from obviously then running the stats and understanding pings on server, etc., as well as from an anecdotal perspective, was enabling people to use their service offline. So when you are out of signal, when you're on the train, actually you can go ahead and start storing up what you're going to be doing. And the way that we've set it up on both iPhone and on Android is actually in the background, once the moment you have signal, it will go and fire them all off for you. And actually from an anecdotal basis, even just this weekend, I had someone that's personally writing to me saying, hey, I really like the feature you did this. This is brilliant. I was out exploring with the Toyota crew in Death Valley, and I sent 18 postcards, and I still don't know what that means. But and he was over the moon that he got to send postcards when he was offline, and the moment he got back into civilization in LA, all the cards were suddenly sent. So for us, I'd say that was probably one of the biggest ones that's had the biggest impact.
Who's used TouchNote? You have one user in the room.
We're all bad friends.
It's surprising to me that you spoke for 20 minutes about your app and didn't show what it was like and so on and so forth. So if I guess people want demos, they can come and see it.
Happily. Would love to.
Later on.
So just a quick question. So MMS to kind of postcards or mobile photos to postcards has been around, I guess, for about 10 years. So I'd be interested in your kind of thoughts about what the challenges are to kind of making that a profitable business. You know, is it consumer awareness to drive the habit? Is it reducing the kind of production cost of the production of the physical goods? Or, you know, have you considered like partnerships with people like maybe Instagram to kind of make this kind of integrated into other kind of photography services?
Yeah. The biggest challenge that I believe we face is exclusively around distribution. So this business, just the way that we've set up our business, the way that we've structured finance, is that we sell this for £1.50, €1.50, or $1.50, including postage to anywhere in the world. And speaking in completely broad strokes, the world of print on demand, when you start talking about this without stamp, is somewhere between 30 and 50%. Just talking in broad strokes in terms of the margin you can get, particularly when you're factoring what happens in mobile, which is then you've obviously got VAT and payment service provider fees, like PayPal or Mblocks and Bango and all these sort of other good people. So in reality, you're only talking about a total margin of somewhere between 30 and 60p. 30 and 60 cents. So cutting that up, actually, even if you do wonderfully on your numbers, even if you print it for basically nothing, you're still only going to get up to 70, 80p. So for us then, the way that this business works, the way that we end up in getting to a stage where we are millions of dollars of revenue per year is when we are on millions and millions of phones. And the funnel, the way that the funnel works, just from what we've seen so far, is that we want to, yes, increase you to go down further down the funnel and for you to become a highly addicted user. To me, the ones that I find quite intriguing are those super users who, for us, are sending anywhere between 50 and 100 postcards per month. So these are people who, and then we'll hear more about Instagram and Hipstamatic shortly, and later on in the next couple of days. But to me, what's really interesting is that people are understanding how to express their lives. So be it previously I was sitting there writing a diary, and then I started writing a blog, and then Facebook, and then Instagram and Hipstamatic. And wait a second, so these are really good, but there's an element of this which is for me. And if you come and see it, then great. But if you don't, then it's for me. Whereas this is not for me. This is people communicating to each other. This is how I can tell you, hey, girlfriend, hey, brother, I'm thinking about you and I miss you. And I want to show you. There you go. That's my wife. I went to Norfolk with her, and I sent that to her at home 3 days afterwards, saying, hey, it was a really nice weekend. This is a photo I sent to my mum of my son making pancakes for the first time, age 2.5. And these are things that, similar to what people do on Instagram and Hipstamatic, etc., that actually this shows their life. But here, this is a really natural, normal, and actually technically terrible photo. But this is what happens. This is my mum. My mum taught me how to make pancakes when I was 3 years old, and this is me teaching my son at 2.5 how to make pancakes. And so it's very much that how do we make that into part of your life? And so to make that into a financially successful business, it's got to be on lots of phones, and we've understood how to absolutely go through that funnel and get people sending those 10 and 20 and 30 postcards a week, a month even.
All right. I think we're up for questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.